This is the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lilli Babcock and I am a transformational confidence coach, and I'm here with a message for you. The anxiety and overwhelm you've been experiencing is not something to be feared or avoided. It's also not something that gets to define who you are as a person. No matter who you are, no matter what your story is, I know that you get to live a life of fulfillment and joy. It's my absolute pleasure to bring this podcast series to you in collaboration with some phenomenal people from all over the world who have walked the same path as you. Together, we will share our stories, our challenges, and our triumphs with the intention of helping you to see that it's possible for you too. Anxiety may be something you live with, but it doesn't get to define who you are or how you live your life. So stand by for some powerful conversations, deep realizations, and the occasional F-bomb. So get those headphones in if you're around sensitive ears, and stand by. This is going to be fun. Hello, welcome to the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lilli Babcock, and today I am joined by global success coach Jamie Crooks, otherwise known as Jamie Sarah, all over social media. Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I'm really excited. And Jamie and I have connected already actually in a couple of business groups that we're both in. So it's always nice to interview someone that I feel like I know, even though I haven't met you in real life. It's always nice to get someone on here that I've connected with previously. So as I said, Jamie is a global success coach. You're actually the founder of a company called Definitely. So should we start by you telling us all about what Definitely is about, what's the vision behind it, and how did you come to create a company like that?
Brilliant. So Definitely is a business that really stands for empowering people to live their their definitely lives and businesses, to not settle in any area. I, as well as struggling with anxiety and at another point depression as well, over the course of my teens and my 20s, there was a period where I realized I was really indecisive. And I was discussing this with my best friend at the time, and he said to me, Jamie, you know, when something's really a yes for you, you have this thing that you say definitely. And then he said to me, he said, I have a feeling you're going to have a business and it's going to be called Definitely.
Oh, wow.
And that was about 3 years before I started Definitely, but it really stuck with me. And it was something that I'd start sharing with friends. I became incredibly decisive, and then any friends of mine who were indecisive or any colleagues, and they'd say, Jamie, how come you're so decisive? How did you get there? And I say, well, you know, if it's not a definitely, it's a no. That's the rule that I apply, and it makes life so much simpler and less stressful. So that's where the name came from. And I was living in New York City. I was in corporate marketing for a small company, a very large company called Thomson Reuters. I'd moved over for a big promotion from London to New York. And I was really intellectually, I was really engaged, and I had a really amazing team. And we managed to get lots done, which is fairly unusual in a big corporate environment. But it wasn't really igniting a fire in my belly. And I knew also that I could be a more effective leader. And so I started training to be a coach, just thinking, well, I'm going to up-level my leadership abilities, and potentially I'll move into the people division, because I wanted to take more care of people. And I was more interested in, you know, are people happy? Are they healthy? Are they performing well? Are they, you know, is talent being leveraged fully? And very quickly, as I got into my coaching training, I realized I needed to become a coach full time, and that even moving into a different division wouldn't be enough. I wanted to work with people one-to-one under my own terms.
Amazing. And so what was it that allowed you to make that switch from someone who is very indecisive to someone who's decisive? Was it literally that conversation with your friend that reminded you of who you were, and you realized that actually you could be decisive when it mattered? Or was it more of a slow burn kind of process?
I think it was that conversation was an extremely, extremely pivotal moment for me. Definitely. And then from that point on, I just got really rigorous about, if I felt indecisive, asking myself that question: is this a definitely? If it's not, okay, let it go and find the thing that is. And that could be, you know, going out shopping for a dress and going, oh, I'm feeling indecisive. Okay, that means that the dress that I'm looking for isn't here. Let's leave it. Let's walk away.
Yeah.
So knowing that I could not choose, like not choosing is a valid option. Saying, okay, of the choices that are currently available to me, I'm feeling indecisive, and therefore that means that it's a no. I'm being okay with that. So indecision isn't inherently a bad thing. It's just a sign that your thing isn't there. And so the faster that you can go, oh, I'm not sure, therefore it's a no, the more you can move on and find the thing that's a yes.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. I could definitely use that. Definitely use that. It's going to become a thing, isn't it?
My clients say it all the time.
So who are you most called to work with? Because you said that you felt this nudge that you wanted to move out of corporate where you were, and you wanted to work with people. Who is it that you are most passionate about working with, and who is it that you help through your business?
So it has evolved since the business started. In the beginning, I realized when I left my corporate job that I was actually quite burnt out, and I hadn't really realized. I'd experienced quite a serious burnout about 3 years beforehand, where I'd ended up actually being referred for a brain scan because the doctor was worried that I might have a brain tumor, because I went so mentally foggy from the intensity of the burnout. Thankfully, there wasn't anything wrong with me. I was just burnt out. But I realized when I left this job that I was pretty burnt out. And so initially, I was really, really pulled to work with people who were burnt out, who were neglecting their well-being, to help them be happier and healthier and freer. And so it was really health and happiness coaching that I focused on initially.
Yeah.
And then I realized as time went on that there was a very common theme in the people that were coming to me. First of all, the majority of the people who were drawn to me were CEOs and founders. And secondly was that even if they had joined me initially to focus on well-being and happiness and becoming more serene, that they then start asking for my advice and bouncing around business ideas. And I started incorporating business and brand coaching into what I did. And then I realized, hang on, it's probably worth me mentioning ahead of time before I start working with someone that actually I do this integration of life and business. And so that's what I started doing. And so now that's what people come to me for. And mostly they're CEOs and founders. I do have other senior leaders. I have a scholarship program available for people who are on the path to becoming founders, but not there yet. And I would say the common themes are that the people are extremely committed to their growth. They generally know exactly what they want. They just don't know how to get there. They also know that their mindset can be improved and their beliefs can be improved and galvanized. Often there's a little niggling belief in there that's making the whole foundation wobbly. And they know that they can benefit from, and they yearn for accountability, because it's so easy. You can be so motivated, but without someone to hold you accountable and go, did you launch that marketing campaign? Did you reach out to that dream client or that dream partner? Without someone there to hold you accountable, it's easy to go, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll do that next week.
Yeah, completely. I think especially where it sounds silly, but especially when it's your soul's work, when it's when it comes from you, because as much as it's your soul's work and your soul purpose and your soul is strong and it knows, it is housed in this human body, which is just riddled with anxiety and questioning and, you know, kind of second guessing every step of the way. And there's so much self-worth that comes into that, that even when you know that you're, you know, whatever it is you're offering can be helpful to people, you will tell yourself that you're not ready yet, or there's a really good reason to like wait for 10 years before you take any action. So I think that's really, really valid. So I just want to go back, because you mentioned that anxiety and depression was something that you actually lived with. So was that before you got into the corporate world? Did that happen before that, or was that as a result of that? Or tell us just a bit more about that.
So first thing, I just want to reiterate what you just said, which is so important. And I did a Facebook Live a couple of days ago on don't negotiate with terrorists. We all have terrorists in our mind. We all have that terrorist part of us that says, don't do that, or go do that thing that's not going to serve you, like go and eat the minstrels, or don't go to the gym, or, you know, don't reach out to that person you really want to reach out to. And it's so, so important to differentiate between those voices and who you actually are and what you're really here for.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I help my clients with, is differentiating and being able to let go of and being able to be okay with those thoughts and those voices popping up, saying, don't do that, saying, wait till tomorrow, saying, wait till next year, saying you're not ready yet. And being able to go, okay, thanks, brain.
Yeah.
And do it anyway.
That's really valid, I think.
It's when we get into a conversation with that voice and we're like, oh, hello, voice. Oh, you're saying something, so that means that you must be saying something because that's the truth. Or at least it's bearing a resemblance of the truth. And we get really like bought into it, and it's just so important to go, do you know what, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
We can't just ignore it.
Yeah, that's so valid. And I've quoted Marie Forleo before, but she has a saying which is, you have a mind, but you are not your mind. Like you have these beliefs, but they don't have to be true. Just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. But you're right, so many people, and also I think so many people think because they have anxiety, or because they feel depressed, or because they're feeling run down or burnt out, stressed, overwhelmed, whatever it is, that must be a sign that they shouldn't go down that path, or maybe it's a sign that they're just supposed to struggle their whole life. And I love what you just said, that no, you know, you get to question it. And I would also go as far as to say that as much as you might feel like that's true, there's another voice inside of you that's saying something different. And that was definitely my experience. You know, even when the doctor was handing me my prescription for antidepressants and saying, you have anxiety. And oddly, he had mentioned a brain scan to me for the same reason that you said. It was written on the top of my file when I went in. But then when he asked a few kind of probing questions, he was like, you don't even need a brain scan. I know what this is. But I was baffled that something like anxiety could actually create that level of physical experience where I blacked out driving my car and I was getting dizzy spells and all the rest of it. And I think, you know, it would have been very easy in that moment to have accepted the prescription and the kind of anxiety label and hung it around my neck and then gone, oh, okay, so this is me now. But because my brain, it works the way it does, as he handed me that, there was this part of me going, no, this was not the plan. And I do not accept that this is how it has to be. Absolutely not. And I'm quite stubborn and defiant. So I was like, no, even if nobody has done this before, I'm going to be the one who goes, actually, I don't need this. And actually, I'm going to still live the life that I always dreamt for myself. And it certainly didn't involve taking a pill every day just to feel even normal, let alone happy. So, but I think so many people don't know that they get to question that. So many people go, oh, but a doctor has said that, so that must mean it's true. And that's not to say, I'm not discounting doctors. I'm not saying that doctors don't know. They absolutely do. And mine even said at the time, you know, you don't need these forever, but maybe you need them for a minute just to balance yourself, you know. And I'm a huge believer in do what feels right for you. But I know for me, I instantly was in this space of, this isn't going to work for me. this is not the life I came here for. Absolutely not. And if this has to be part of it, fine, but it definitely will not be the defining feature. It definitely will not be in the driving seat, and it certainly isn't going to dictate who I eventually become and what I eventually achieve. But so many people don't know that they even get to question that. So it's such a valid point. So with your own experience,
fundamentally, I believe that we're all at our core, we are fearless and completely unshakably confident. And whether it's anxiety or whether it's depression or whether it's, burnout, whatever we're experiencing in a given point in time, if it's not working, it's just something to be cleared away that doesn't actually belong, as opposed to who we fundamentally are. And I think making that differentiation between I'm an anxious person versus I feel anxious right now, I'm struggling with anxiety right now in this period of my life is very, very important. And I think it's, doctors do have a responsibility to be very mindful about the language they use with regards to anxiety.
Yeah, no, you're right, because it's not who you are. It's just, it's part of the human experience that so many people have. It certainly doesn't have to mean anything. It will mean whatever you decide it means. It will have the power you decide to give it. And I'm always a little bit reluctant to say that, because I know for a fact, because I've had it, I hang out in quite a lot of anxiety groups, and actually I've left a lot of anxiety groups because I came under attack for talking the way that I talk, because so many people are so attached to that anxiety, to their anxiety and to that identity, that when you say they don't need it, it's almost like telling them they don't need like their arms or their legs. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and they take massive offense to it, because they immediately go to a place of, then you haven't experienced it. I had so many people message me privately, like admins of these groups, saying, do you even have anxiety? Because it doesn't look, we've looked at your profile and it doesn't look like you do. And I was like, oh my God, like anxiety doesn't look like anything. Like that's the whole frigging point. Like, Jesus, you're looking at my profile picture that I consciously took, and I smiled, and you don't know that morning I spent 3 hours crying under my duvet and I couldn't even get out of bed, and maybe I took that picture to try and make myself feel better, or because I wanted to put a front on for the world. I definitely had a mask on for a very long time, and I probably still do it, if I'm honest. There are definitely times where people will say, how are you doing? How's it going? And I'll be like, yeah, it's great. And in my head, I'm like, liar, you're not great. Like, you're totally worrying about this and that and wondering how this is going to pan out. And, the whole point is that you can't see it. That's the thing. It's like, there is no look for anxiety. There is no specific face for it. And, that's something, and I think that's part of the really huge struggle. And I imagine it's something that you come across quite a lot working with the people that you do, these
it's
CEOs.
A big spectrum.
Yeah. It's
a very big spectrum, because anxiety can be, however someone's experiencing anxiety is completely valid. So anxiety can be all consuming, and it can feel like that is your identity, and that's a reason to not do things, and it's a reason why you can't do things. That can be a totally valid perception to have. It's not the truth, but it can genuinely feel that way. But then other times anxiety can feel like a distant memory when you're having an amazing day, when you're struggling with anxiety. Or you kind of move through the worst of your anxiety, and now it just pops up sometimes when something really unexpected or really unpredictable or really stressful happens. So the whole spectrum is really valid. It's interesting that you received those comments of, you obviously don't have anxiety.
Crazy. And obviously they'd gone on and they'd seen that I now help people with confidence, and I guess they're protective. I get that, especially admins of those groups. They have to protect their members, and obviously I guess you would look at a profile like mine and go, oh, she's a coach, she's obviously in here coaching for clients, or she's just trying to find people. But and obviously I know the truth, and I understand that if they don't know me, then maybe they would think that, and actually often a lot of the time the admins of these groups have anxiety themselves. So I get it. I totally get it. But it was quite shocking, because obviously I know what I go through, and I know what I've been through, I should say. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't look so happy in my pictures. Like maybe I'm supposed to like take a few steps back so that people can resonate more. And then I was like, no, because that's not the point of what I'm all about. You know, this is my journey, and it's beautiful as it is. So I was able to process that. But so what do you think was the thing that helped you go from someone who was suffering with anxiety, depression? Was there like a big sort of shift that happened? Was it something that was a bit gradual over time?
So first thing, just to summarize what you just said, which I think was beautiful, you never ever know, you can never know from looking at someone on the outside what's going on for them internally. And this is a really big part of my work. Is, yes, I work with very successful people to varying degrees. Some of them are, you know, CEOs of multi-billion-dollar corporations, and some of them are senior leaders in startups. But one thing that's consistent is that how you appear on the outside doesn't necessarily match how you feel on the inside. So people can look like they have the perfect life on the outside, but on the inside they have a belief that they're fundamentally not good enough, or not worthy enough, or that they are worthy of their professional success, but they're unlovable, for example.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just so important to know you can't see that just from looking at someone.
No.
So that's the first piece I just wanted to be sure to mention. And then could you just remind me what your other question was?
Yeah, so with your own journey with anxiety and depression, was there a certain point where you just got up one day and you were like, right, enough of this, I'm going to make some changes and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z? Or was it like more of a gradual transition that looking back, you can now see there were things that sort of steered you there?
So I'll give you a brief history of my life. I spent until about the age of 11 living with my mother. And then at that point, for various reasons, I went to go live with my grandparents. And at that point, I developed quite a bad case of depression. And I didn't really know, I could feel the darkness, but I didn't have a name for it for quite some time. And I specifically and very vividly remember going to see my GP when I was about 16 and just crying and just saying, I just feel so unhappy. I feel so sad and I feel really worried all the time. And I had gone through a period of self-harming as well, and gone through a period where I sort of wished that there was a way to end it. And I contemplated, you know, if I were to kill myself, how would I do it? And I decided against it because I was incredibly close to my maternal grandfather. And I loved him so deeply, and I didn't want him to experience the pain of losing me. But if it wasn't for that love, even if it wasn't for that specific relationship, he's not the only person that loved me, but he was the only person at the time where I felt his love and I felt the affinity at such a deep level. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would be here. But I'd gone through that pretty silently. I'd had a counselor at my school who I'd sort of shared some things with. And then I remember this moment of going to see the doctor, and he said, you have depression. And then he gave me this medication. He said, take this medication. And I thought, well, that's a bit weird. I hadn't yet started studying psychology, which I did for A-level and then went on to do a degree in. But I just thought, that's a bit weird. It doesn't feel right. And I started taking this medication and I felt nauseous and I felt just weird. And so I stopped taking it. And I remember feeling so pulled to psychology, and then starting my A-level and just being so intensely fascinated with the human mind and so intensely fascinated with the fact that it's not as simple as, oh, you're sad? Okay, here's some pills.
Yeah.
But that the human mind is much more complicated than that. And as I got deeper and deeper into it, I got more and more empowered, and I just realized that we can change the way that we feel. It's not necessarily easy, but we can change the way that we feel by being mindful about our environment, by making our own choices about how we spend our time, about what thoughts we choose to entertain, by, you know, exercising. There was a point where I got very clear, oh, when I go for a run, or I go for a long walk, or I go for a cycle, even if I might have felt depressed or anxious before, I now feel fine.
Yeah.
And then I went to do my psychology degree, and there was still remnants of depression there. And then I got very, very anxious. At one point I had 6 jobs. I was a shopaholic, and so I needed 6 jobs in order to pay for the things that I was buying for my ridiculous shopping addiction. And I just got so stressed because I was so insanely busy. And I remember having panic attacks at university, and then going to see the doctor again at university and being told, you have generalized anxiety disorder, and we're going to refer you for CBT, for cognitive behavioral therapy. And I remember the CBT really, really helping. And then finishing my finals, and then just naturally a lot of the anxiety diminishing after that. But it still stuck around, and it was still pretty pervasive, more pervasive than I would have cared to admit at the time. And then it wasn't until I was 25, I was on Voucher. At that point, I had a bit of a Voucher and Groupon addiction, which was, at the time, I wasn't, you know, earning a brilliant salary. And it was the only way that I could experience certain sort of luxury experiences without breaking the bank. And so I'd book like a float tank session for £10 instead of £40. And then I booked this hypnosis session. I think it was for like £30 instead of £100 or something. I ended up having probably about 30 sessions of hypnosis with this one hypnotherapist in the run up to me securing my promotion to New York, and then during the move and after the move, to help me deal with the profound anxiety that I was experiencing, and to also help me deal with, I was hoarding as well. She helped me stop hoarding. She helped me stop shopping. She helped me improve my relationship with food, improve my relationship with my body. She helped me actually believe that I was worthy of love. And one by one, and what I noticed from hypnosis was that we could spend one session on a belief or a behavior, and then that thing would be gone.
Right.
And I'd never experienced before that something with that level of effectiveness. And so I started having, you know, a different session for each thing, until one by one, most of the screwed up beliefs and most of the anxiety I experienced had completely gone. And before I knew it, I was living the life of my dreams in New York City.
Amazing.
And then I hired my first coach 2 years later. And that was phenomenally useful. And coaching is very useful. But from an anxiety perspective, it was the hypnosis that was really profound. And that's why it's a thing that I incorporate into my coaching now.
Yeah, I agree. Hypnosis was, it comes up a lot on here actually. And I did interview my own hypnotherapist only 2 days ago. So that episode will be out actually by the time this one goes out. And yeah, I'm the same as you. It was the thing that I went for CBT as well. And I actually didn't get on with it, but I think I didn't resonate with the guy that was delivering. I don't think it was the CBT. I just didn't resonate with the guy that was delivering it on that day. I felt like, I don't know, I didn't feel like he was telling me anything I didn't already know. I'd already dug in quite a lot to self-development by that point. So I can see how some of that information would be life-changing if you've never heard of it. But he wasn't telling me anything I didn't know. But when I went to the hypnotherapist, yes, I felt an instant shift when I came out, but not in the way that I possibly expected to. And it's hypnotherapy. So many people are frightened of it. And it's because of these stupid shows where you think you're going to cluck like a chicken and dance around the stage.
I know.
And,
you, Darren Brown.
I know. Oh my goodness. And it's like, it's so sad because it's so transformational, and it is actually changing lives. I know so many people who are having their lives changed. In fact, I did an interview right before you today, and that guy said the same thing. His pivotal moment was when he went for hypnotherapy, and he all of a sudden felt very, very different. His beliefs changed, his perception changed, and I think that's the powerful thing, isn't it? It's you may not see a physical change straight away. You'll still go home and live in your house, and you'll still eat your food, and you'll probably still have the issues in the very immediate time after the session. But what will be different is how you feel about it and whether you believe you can overcome it, and that's powerful.
And that physical sense as well, that physical sense of floatiness that I definitely experienced, and that my clients often speak of when they experience hypnosis with me, and many other people I know who've had hypnosis as well, they speak of that same thing, that feeling of lightness, of floatiness, of freedom. That physical sensation combined with that power of rewiring a belief so quickly and pain-free. You don't have to go back and talk about what happened.
Right.
You don't have to go and relive the pain. You don't have to have somebody like correcting you. You're just relaxing and allowing yourself to absorb positive suggestions. Now, I differentiate between hypnosis in general and regression hypnosis or regression hypnotherapy. I personally don't do regression hypnotherapy because I think that has the capacity. I've had it myself. Twice I found it really useful, and twice I found it really reactivating.
Right.
So I don't do it. But to be able to rewire the brain in such a relaxing, hands-off environment, the person doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to be anything. They don't have to worry about how they're showing up. They can just relax and be, and let the therapist take care of it. When you're extremely anxious and you feel like I just can't cope, I can't even do anything. It's the perfect thing to do because there's nothing required of you.
Yeah. And so do you work in person with people, or does your work over like a Zoom call like the one we're on right now?
So I do both hypnosis and coaching, both in person and virtually. I don't find that there's any difference in effectiveness when we're doing it virtually. It's just as effective. I actually find that, especially if someone's feeling quite stressed, they can actually go deeper even faster when they're in their own environment. And I used to do most of my sessions when I was receiving hypnotherapy. I'd do most of them from my bed on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening, virtually. And I'd just lie on my bed, and my hypnotherapist would do her thing. And sometimes she would record the sessions for me. I always record the sessions for my clients so they can listen back. And I find it really useful. I found it really useful for myself, and they find it really useful to listen back when you're drifting off to sleep. Helps to reinforce those messages, especially if you're having a bit of a wobble. But it's either or. I do sessions in person in London, or virtually. I work with people all over the world.
That's incredible. And there was something you said that I was going to pick up on. I'm sure it will come back to me. But I think it's so interesting. And what I have found very interesting actually is, especially in my case, the hypnotherapists that I've met, and actually not just with hypnotherapy, but with other, what you might call alternative therapies, quite often the people that have found it were scientifically minded first. Like you did psychology, so you must be quite scientifically minded. You must have that need for fact and balance. And this is the thing as well. I think the misconception is that we're all a bunch of hippies floating around, spreading peace and love everywhere, and we think that's going to fix everything. But actually, my hypnotherapist is exactly the same. Her background is, she's extremely scientific, and she, you know, she would need to see kind of tangible evidence, if you like, of this working, and she needs to be able to back that up with, you know, with fact and figures. And I think it's so interesting, and I love that those two worlds are colliding more and more we're seeing, like, there's a lady I connected with just at the end of last year who was working for the NHS. She was actually, I think she was a psychologist actually, for the NHS. So literally right in that realm, you know, right on that side, and started to get into energy healing and slightly more woo stuff. And now, I mean, I had a session with her which blew my mind completely away, because it was so woo-woo but phenomenal. But all the while she was like, and this is backed up by these facts and these figures, and you could, you know, I just think it's amazing, because to anyone listening who's maybe thinking, oh, but I don't believe in that, and I just need tangible evidence, then, you know, I would definitely say don't discount it, because
there's
actually
a lot of evidence speaking to the effectiveness of hypnotherapy,
right,
both in improving psychological issues, but also even with certain physical issues. Like hypnotherapy is used with patients having chemotherapy and radiotherapy,
right, yeah,
to help them deal with their psychological concerns, to help them deal with the fear. So the program that I did was a program in evidence-based hypnosis and hypnotherapy.
right.
And there's a lot of research that supports the effectiveness of hypnotherapy that just isn't there for other kinds of therapy. So there is evidence. And I definitely encourage, if someone's feeling worried or skeptical, to Google, you know, whether they're dealing with anxiety or whether they're dealing with something else, to actually have a Google.
Yeah.
You know, anxiety and hypnotherapy effectiveness. And look at some of the research that's been published in very robust journals.
Yeah, and you'll find so many people like you, like me, like so many other people who have actually done it. And, you know, and it's like I say, I mean, even if you're not sure, then why not book even just a conversation with somebody who can maybe explain it better for you, and maybe, you know, put some of your fears to rest. Because if you're still struggling, then your version of coping isn't working for you. If you're still feeling lost, and if you're still feeling stressed and anxious, then something is still amiss. And then wouldn't it just be worth finding out if this can help? Because the worst thing that will happen is you'll have an introductory session, or you'll have a conversation, you'll decide it's not for you, and you'll go about your merry way. Like, nothing bad is going to happen. You know, you're not suddenly obligated to come and do it for, you know, weeks and months if you really don't feel like it can help you. But I think I was definitely surprised. I was very surprised at how quickly it shifted me. I was mostly surprised that it didn't feel anything like I thought. You know, I really thought I was just going to be whacked over the head with something heavy, pass out, wake up and be better. Like, I literally thought, oh, I'll just go to sleep, and when I wake up, everything will be better. And so I was really surprised to find that when I was going under, I was still fully aware. And actually it's interesting that you said, this might have been what I wanted to pick up on actually. It was interesting that you said that you're just relaxing, and that you're taking on these suggestions, and that there's nothing you need to do. Because my biggest fear was that I was going to do it wrong. And I literally went into the session going, oh, but I'm really strong-minded. I know I am. And so I really don't think this is going to work. And even while she was doing the initial kind of process to relax me, the thought going around in my head was, how embarrassing this will be when it doesn't work, and how am I going to break it to her, because I like to take care of people. So I was already stressing out about the fact that I was going to have to tell this lady that what she didn't work, and because of how my brain works, I was like, oh, I'm going to undo her entire life's work because I'll be the one person that this didn't work for, and it's going to all of that.
People who've said that to me, the number of people who've said, well, yeah, I do want to try it. I tend to wait a couple of sessions to jump into hypnosis because I like to make sure that they feel confident and comfortable with me. Yeah. And I notice that helps them feel more at ease and therefore helps them get more out of the hypnosis. But the number of people who've said to me, Jamie, because I'll say to them before we begin, I'll say, are there any concerns that you have? And I'll give them a little, I'll give them information, like the fact that hypnosis comes from the word hypno, which is Greek and means sleep. And it might feel like you're asleep, but really you will be conscious the whole time. You can't absorb any suggestions without choosing to. I can't make you do anything you don't want to. I will only be sharing positive suggestions that are to benefit your well-being and to align with your goals and with the way you want to feel and the things that you're committed to creating. And many people will say to me, Jamie, I'm very strong-willed, or I'm very cynical. I trust you, but I think I'm going to be the one person this isn't going to work with. And I just say to them, everyone, I say more people than not, because the people that come and coach with me are incredibly smart. They do like evidence. They are, sometimes a little bit cynical about the fluffier things. And it's totally natural to have that concern, but I find it really doesn't make a difference. And very often it's the most cynical people that get the most from it. Right. Because they have the most to gain from being in a non-judgmental, fully relaxed state, which often they've never felt before in their lives. Yeah. Until the end of a hypnotherapy session, where they sort of open their eyes and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't feel worried about anything. Like, it's almost like people have said to me, this is like, it's like the ultimate drug, but it's not bad for you. There's no risks. Yeah.
Amazing. So if anybody wanted to maybe explore this option for themselves, how would they get in touch with you, or what would their first steps be?
So I do hypnosis as part of my coaching program. So I just want to be super clear about that. I have some group programs, which also include a combination of group trainings and group hypnosis experiences, which is something that I have established is really, really effective. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily need to be purely one-to-one.
Right. Yeah.
To be effective. Oh, my AirPods just died, so we just switched over to the other set. Can you hear me nice and clearly now?
I can hear you. Yeah, I've got you.
Okay, good. AirPods are amazing. This is why I have two sets. So I have a few different options. I have a group program called the Flow program, which is starting in 4 weeks. And that program is all about getting people out of this hyper anxious, hyper vigilant state where they're constantly thinking about what they should do, what they must do, what their brother's dog thinks that they should do. Yeah. what the Daily Telegraph says that they should do. Getting them into a state of flow and ease and what really feels aligned for me in all areas of life and in business, because whether it's thinking about the person that you should be dating or the type of marketing you should be doing, shoulding has such a restrictive effect both energetically, and I've noticed that it really impedes the growth of businesses. And when it's impeding the growth, it's affecting your profitability and it's also affecting your impact. Right. And everyone who comes to me wants to have a massive impact, and they want to make profit in order, inevitably when you make more profit, you're able to have even more of an impact because you can continually invest in expanding yourself and expanding your business. So The Flow program is a group program that's starting in 4 weeks. I then also do have spaces for one-to-one clients. I do 3-month programs, and I'm currently pregnant, but we have about 4 months until the baby should be arriving. So I'll be taking on my last few one-to-one clients over the next few weeks. And then from that point on, there'll be a very short pause. But I'm not going anywhere. And one of the things that I'm committed to creating is I've already created 3 different group programs over the past few months, and there's going to be some extra programs and lots of extra content that I create that people can have access to even when I take a few weeks off when my baby first comes.
Right, yeah, amazing. Oh, it's so exciting. And that's amazing. And I think what I especially love is that you are helping these people who probably are the strong pillars for everybody in their life, and they are the ones who go home at night and struggle in silence because they feel like they can't lean on somebody else without maybe upsetting their own growth. You know, they worry that if they burden them with their issues, that they can no longer be that person that helps. And I know to those people that's the most important thing, and I know because I'm one, that's exactly where I was at. And I'd built up my if you like public persona, which I still have. You know, I am energized Lilli, you know, and I'm always go, and people are always saying to me, oh my god, how do you fit it all in, how do you do it? And I'm like, well, I'm over here thinking I really don't feel like I fit a lot into anything. I really don't feel like I do a lot half the time. But that's the anxious mindset. I just think that's me. But I know how lonely it felt initially when I realized that anxiety was what I was dealing with. And I'm a real doer. I'm a real, like, oh, something is off. Let's fix it. Let's realign that. Let's just put it right. I'm a real kind of fixer. And it was very scary and lonely to realize that I didn't know how. And I remember sitting on the edge of my bed feeling, I think I was having a panic attack, or I just had one. And I recognized in that moment that I needed help. And so I was congratulating myself going, at least you've recognized you need help from someone else. That's a good thing. So let's focus on that. Let's breathe and let's pick up our phone and we'll scroll through and we'll see who we can talk to. And I scrolled through. I must have thousands of contacts in that phone, and I could not find one person that I could turn to. And actually, it was bollocks, because there were a bajillion people I could turn to who would have been willing to listen to me and willing to help me. But how I felt in that moment was that I couldn't, because I was either worried of being judged, I was worried they would judge me, or I was worried that I would worry them. So in the case of like my family and my immediate friends, I was like, I don't want to cause them to worry, so I won't tell any of them. So that wiped all of them out. Then there were people who I worked with in a professional capacity. So I was just like, well, it's not professional to speak to them. So that wiped all of them out. Then there were all the people whose kids I taught or had something to do with. So I was like, well, they can't know, because they'll pull their kids out of whatever it is we're doing and they'll think I'm not capable. So that was a judgment fear. So that wiped them out. And then I was like, there's literally no one. There's not one person in the world that I feel safe to pick up the phone and go, I'm really struggling and I don't know what to do. And that's the whole reason this podcast exists. It's the whole reason my business exists, and seemingly yours and so many others as well, because the truth is, and I know this now, and I guess I knew it at the time as well, really, but it didn't help me with the physical process of what to do next, is that you're really not on your own, and there are always people to reach out to. However, you won't always feel safe to do that with people who are in your circle, like friends and family. And this is where coaching, I think, is so important. And whether you have a one-to-one coach, which obviously there's an investment for that, because there's a lot of time involved and a lot of, personal kind of connection, and it's very tailored, or whether you just get into a space, a community online where like-minded people are hanging out, like there's power in that as well. And so I know, because this is how my mind works, that when you listen to an episode like this, it's very easy to just go, oh, well, there's no way I could afford that, or there's no way that I could find the time for that. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is there are varying levels of ways you can help yourself, but there is something you can do if you choose it, you know. And I say at the end of every podcast, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. And it's not just because it sounds cool, although I think it does, but it's because it really is that choice. You just decide, you say, okay, well, I may not be ready for one-to-one yet, but can I get into this community? Can I, you know, and if you're going, oh, but then I can't share my story because blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, so what is the blah, blah, blah? And is that actually true? It comes back to what Jamie said right at the top, which was just because you think those things, it doesn't mean they're true. It's just your truth right now because you've given it the power and you want to believe it. But, you know, I love the what if game. What if you were wrong about that? What if you can change it? What if you can find the time? What if, you know? And I know as an anxiety sufferer, playing the what if game is one of our favorite things to do. But usually it's, oh, what if we fall off the edge of that cliff? Or what if we get hit by that car? So change it around and be like, well, okay, what if I thrive? What if I follow this little niggle that says go and get this help or go and read that book or whatever? And what if that changes my whole life and I'm happier than I've ever been? Like, what if that? I think, you know, you can literally, if you like to play the what if game, then cool, play it, but just shift what comes after the phrase what if and you'll shift everything. Oh my God, amazing. I feel like I could talk to you for hours.
Same game, different set of rules. Yeah,
totally.
Absolutely. We could talk about, and I love what you mentioned there as well around, you know, the power of having somebody who's really objective, because it's so easy when we're having a conversation with a friend or a family member for them to bring their own stuff into it, for them to bring judgment into it, for them to try and fix us rather than be looking to help us find our solution. You know, coaching is about empowering the coachee to find their own solutions, and knowing that they are at the source of all their transformation. Like, we as coaches, we're facilitators. It's not, we're not sort of waving a magic wand and that's it. It's a co-creation, and it's a very, very special process, and it is a privilege. And one-to-one coaching isn't for everyone's budget necessarily at this point in time. It is something that is very, very worth investing in. It is something you will get a massive return on investment in, both as an individual and as a professional, especially if you're incorporating the business aspect into it. But even if you're not, you know, there's no way I would have got my massive promotion in New York if I hadn't made that investment in the hypnosis beforehand, to help me not be scared of moving and not be scared of stepping up to be a bigger leader. But there is always something, and that's why I've created my group programs. That's why I have my Definitely Tribe group, which is free. And I know that you're doing the same thing as well. You have these different options. And then even this incredible podcast, which is free to listen to. It's a massive gift to the world. So there are resources out there. To suit your budget and all of that.
I want to pick up on what you just said there as well about the fact that coaches are facilitators and that they're not waving a magic wand, because the energy of that is so powerful. I'm speaking from experience here. If you enter into any kind of coaching, whether it's a program or a one-to-one or whatever, with the mindset and belief that that is the thing that's going to fix you, therefore, because you're not enough to do it yourself, then I'm not saying it won't work, you'll get something from it, but I think you'll be surprised, because the very first lesson to learn is the power lies within you. The shift and the transformation comes from you. And that might be a terrifying thought right now if you're not feeling very powerful. But this is a lesson I've learned literally in the last couple of years, because I threw myself at a lot of courses initially with the belief, and I'm very grateful for those courses, don't get me wrong, but I know that when I signed up for them, I was in a place of, I can't do this at all, so somebody else has to do it for me. And what I've now realized is those courses are transformational, but only when you come the other part of the way. Like, they'll come halfway, you bring the other part. And that's why the energy of just signing up for something often creates massive shifts in itself. I've done it more recently now since I had that realization. Now, if I make a decision to sign up for something or to get involved in something, everything changes right off the bat, just in terms of how I feel, opportunities that show up, like my reaction to things. And even as I'm doing it, I'm going, well, this is weird. Like, I've never reacted like this before. And yet now look what it's led to. I mean, this podcast is a great example of that. This came off the back of investing in a course last year, where the whole way through I was like waiting for this big clanging bell and it never came. And then I just subliminally realized, oh, in the meantime, I've just launched this award-winning podcast where now thousands of people are listening to it all the time. I mean, it's bizarre, but I guess the message I have is the power is in you. And it sounds so cheesy, but if you can just strip the cheese away for now, and just get the message that the transformation is yours, and actually you are fully capable on your own. It's just that as human beings, we often don't know that. And that's where the facilitating can really help, because somebody will hold a mirror up and show you how awesome you are on the day where you don't have the strength to pick up the mirror yourself. And this is why the energy of who you work with is so important, because you guys will know if you're listening to this, and if you have resonated with Jamie on any level, then there's a reason for that. If what she says excites you, and if the way that she's talking is lighting a fire in your belly, then that you are for her and she is for you, and it's a soul connection. And I really believe that. And this is why you can't, there needs to be no fear, because when you go from that place, you can't get it wrong. You'll know in your gut if something's right for you, and you really can't screw it up. So I'm so grateful that you were on here today, Jamie. It's been absolutely amazing. I just want to give you the last word by asking you, and I'm going to change the wording slightly, but I kind of ask this question at the end of every podcast, which is, if you had a megaphone and the ability to reach every anxiety sufferer in the world right now, what would you want them to know? But I think specifically for you, these people who are founders, CEOs, leaders, trailblazers, these people that are larger than life and in the background feeling so small, what do you want those people to know?
I have to say that the thing is, I love you.
Yeah.
It's just, I see you, and I see what you're achieving, and I see what you're hiding underneath the surface and what you're dealing with underneath the surface, and I love you. Even if I've never met you, I have an unconditional love and regard for you. Yeah,
beautiful. And the thing is, when you really hear that as well, because I know you can hear someone say that and go, especially if you have an issue with that yourself, if you're someone who maybe doesn't love yourself or finds it difficult to say when you've done a good job, it can be very jarring. And if that is jarring for you, then it's definitely meant for you. Definitely meant for you. And it's meant with love as well. And you guys can't see Jamie's face, but I can. And she looked right into the camera when she said that, and she hit me in my soul. Like, I felt like you said that to me directly. And so
there's a little tear in my eye.
Oh, we have leakage. No, I felt it, and
overflowing. My heart is overflowing.
I hope you guys felt that too, because it was real. I felt it, and I saw it, and I have the video evidence. So if anybody needs to see video evidence, it does exist. To everybody listening, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. Please hear that. It's so true. And I've loved having you on the podcast. Jamie, thank you so much for being here once again.
Thank you so much for having me.
To everyone listening, have a wonderful day wherever you are. Jamie and I are sending you all our love. And just know you can shift wherever you are right now. You can make it better, and you can do it right now. So get in touch if you want more support. Get in the Facebook group. I'm going to invite Jamie to come in there as well, so you can tag her with your questions, get a conversation started. But in the meantime, I will be back very soon with another episode. I'm sending you loads of love. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved it, please make sure you subscribe and leave us a comment over on iTunes to make sure you never miss an episode. And for additional resources, masterclasses with our guest experts, and weekly live coaching with me, why not join us as a member of the Lilli Club? You can find all of the details in the show notes of this episode. In the meantime, thank you again, and we'll be back soon. Big love.